Thank you very much, Kiana. As Kiana said, we are honored to have with us Sakina Pitts, who is a longtime friend of both of us, but she's not only a friend of us, but she has established herself in the Newark education system as the Newark Board of Education principal of Chancellor Avenue School. And we're so honored to have her here to learn about her journey and get an insight of where her perspective is of what the current state of education under the pandemic. So without further ado, we welcome Sakina Pitts.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sha and Kiana. I am honored to, be a guest and humbled, and so I thank you on behalf of Inspired by Knownness, to be here, and I'm also grateful to our years of friendship as well.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you for taking the time on your Saturday to spend an hour. We really do appreciate it. It looks like you're calling from your office. Do you ever leave your office?
I pretty much live here, right? So this is really like my second home. And that's just facts. I graduated as a little girl here in 1990. And so every day that I stick the key in the door and walk in, it is really like my second home. I spend a lot of hours here. I mean, I probably couldn't even calculate, but 40 hours a week is an understatement, just the nature of the job. But if you are really, heart and soul, feet on the ground, it takes a lot of work. And, also based on, the population of students that I service, it takes a lot of time to ensure that we have the resources and what we need to be successful as a school to serve our school-wide community.
Awesome. So with that said, when did you know you wanted to get into this field?
I didn't. So fun fact, I left Morgan State University and went to mortuary school. So I became a licensed funeral director in the state of New Jersey first. And then I had the birth of my son. And I'm like, God, I can't be, going to the funeral home. When death calls, you have to go. It could be the middle of the night, And so I started substitute teaching. I was a per diem teacher. And then I was tapped in, each part of my continuum in education, I was kind of tapped in. So I had no idea that I would land in the principalship. I started as a substitute teacher, then became a teacher, then became a literacy coach, a vice principal, and then a principal.
Wow.
So earlier on, what was your childhood passion? Did you have another direction you thought you were going to go in, and then you ended up here?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a funeral director. I thought I was going to own a funeral home. So in Newark, we're home of the universities and colleges. You have Kane, Rutgers, NJIT, and so I was in University of Medicine and Dentistry in high school. I went to Science High School here in Newark. And on the weekends, we were in an upward bound program. So my friends and I would sneak into the morgue and hide under the table.
What?
And so, I saw a pregnant woman corpse and some other things, and, got into the world of forensics a little bit. And so I was talking to my mom, and she's like, why don't you go to mortuary school? And so I really, after I left Morgan State, I went to McAllister Institute for funeral homes of mortuary. And that was the top mortuary school in the nation. And so I did 2 years in mortuary school, and I really thought that I was going to own a funeral home. And so then my trajectory just changed.
Wow.
Do you remember that moment that your trajectory kind of changed? What inspired you?
Yeah, I remember the exact moment. So I was a substitute teacher, and I had a student named Tiana Tucker. And cutest little thing, but boy, when I tell you, gave me a run for my money. One day in the class, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call your dad. And she's like, you can't call my dad. My dad is locked up. And I was like, well, who do you live with? And so she was like, my grandmother. And I was like, well, I'm going to call your grandmother. So I remember that class, and then my principal gave me a long-term assignment. There was a teacher who was having her leg amputated. Rest in peace, Miss Haruna Davis. And I took that class, and I took that class by storm. When I tell you, readers, theaters, every kind of thing that I could do fun. It was a 4th grade literacy class. And I had always loved journalism. You know, I had some of the best English professors at Morgan State University, and I just fell in love with this job. And so my principal came to me and was like, listen, you need to take your praxis. And so it was then that a career in education became real. And in terms of state testing, right? So, you know, there's always so much pressure about state testing, but I was a substitute teacher. I was a long-term sub, but that pressure really wasn't on me because I hadn't signed a contract as a teacher. But when I saw my principal dancing in the doorway, like, what did you do in this class? You have 70% proficiency in 4th grade. Wow. And in my mind, it was like, shit, we just had fun. We just had fun. Like, we had fun. I taught them poetry, stanza. You know, I've always been into taking rap songs and, you know, making my own mock versions of them or whatever. And so really just moving these students and having fun with it, you know?
Right. I told you, I'm sending Kathari there. I'm signing her up. We're going to figure out the logistics.
Yes, we would love to have her.
But that's what matters, though. It called you. It kind of was like it found you in a sense. You becoming
exactly. So and they were so intuitive. You know, I used to read about. I had a mentor named Daisy Yarbrough, and you know, she would talk to me about knowing your students, like really knowing your students. And so I really became in tune with 4th grade. Like I bought a book called Celebrating the 4th by Joan Service. And you know what? I had a teacher this year who was a little reluctant about moving to 4th grade. And I told her to get that book. And so, you know, being able to pass on those experiences, but it really helped me to, like, you know, understand them. Something happens the summer between 4th and 5th grade, like kids just grow up, but, you know, really rich experiences. And when I tell you fun, like true story, one day I'm lining the students up for lunch. And, you know, I had a lot of structure and organization in my class. Table 1, put your chairs in, line up. Table 2, up. Table 2's not ready. Thank you, table 4, for being ready, right? And I had on a fur vest, right? And one of my students walked past me and said, whoa, I thought that was a bear. And I fell out. But 4th grade was just really, really fun, you know. Yes. So
they gonna come for you at that age.
What? They will come for you at any age.
This is true. Yes, I'm a 4-year-old who still does that. So I can imagine in 4th grade. Because how old are they in 4th grade?
I think I want to say like 10
years old.
Yeah.
She's about to be 10. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Completely at that age.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned about your mentor. So I know Kiana was going to, like, there's a question we always ask about, like, the influence about your mentorship, about what was outside of that advice that person had specifically give you. Was there anything that stuck out to you that she had told you?
Yeah, so everything, so I have a couple of mentors as I think about the years. In my earlier years as a teacher, Daisy Yarbrough is the one that stands out in my mind, and everything, you know, was always about students. You know, for example, one day we had, I did a poetry cafe, and she would come by to see, you know, me in action with the students. And, you know, I said, whoa, this took a lot of work. I'm going to take off tomorrow, you know, take a mental health day or whatever. And she looked at me and she said, Sakina, you just had an event with students and tomorrow is Friday. So what are your students' expectation of you? And I said, they're probably going to want to talk about it. She said, exactly. And I did not take off. And true to life, they came in excited and they needed to reflect, you know, and they needed to be able to process that. And they needed me, not a substitute teacher. So it was always those things that, you know, she had a laser sharp focus. And she would sit in the front row and she would look almost stoic. And, you know, I remember one day I was in my alternate group and she said, I went to Sakina school and I said, you didn't enjoy the program. I watched you. And she said, Sakina, it was about the students. They were articulate, they enunciated, they understood, their poetry was phenomenal. That is a true testament to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And she broke me down, and so I always remembered then, and even to this day, that it is about the children, And then moving along in my career, had another mentor, her name is Giselle, and in the principalship, teaching me about the school being an ecosystem and how you give students these experiences to move them through this ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. So a totally different perspective once you get into the seat. And just recently, Damon Dash. So I am in a principal group called Off School Grounds, spearheaded by Dennis McKeezy and Lays Elliott. And Damon Dash has been so instrumental. He is on our calls every single week, and I mean, dropping nuggets. And so I am grateful, even 5 years into the seat as a principal, to still have mentors along the way in this work.
Well, you had spoken about your poetry and that you had hosted some of the poetry slams and groups. And when I watched your poem about teaching without text, I watched it over and over again. And as an adult, you still grab the inspiration from it. What inspired you to write it and then also go and perform it in front of your students?
Yeah, it was I wrote that one as a fourth grade teacher many years ago. And, it was published by Turnaround for Children just a few years ago. And so that one has stuck. It was, as a teacher, you always model for your students. And so I wanted to create a model for them. Remember, I was teaching them poetry, stanzas, bars, and so I actually wrote that for them. And during one of our poetry cafes, I recited that for them in the school community. And it just kind of got rave reviews. And then anytime that I ever recited it in life, people just kind of gravitated to that when it really resonates. So that's where the birth of Teaching Without Text came from. It was for my fourth graders.
That was so great. And it really was. I was like, I've always known you had some bars, but it just like, you can always put a beat. It was almost like you put a beat behind it. It's now not a song. It's like a song.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what's one thing that you learned about yourself in this position and in your career that maybe you didn't know before?
That there is always a learning curve. Like, you are a lifelong learner. Every year teaches me something different, tenacity, reflection, resiliency, and there are so many things that I've done wrong, but it's like fail quick, fail forward. For example, in my first year of the principalship, we had high daily attendance. And I'm like, yeah, every day we are at 94 and 95%. Yeah. No, I tanked my school. I felt like educational malpractice had happened on my watch. To see that 32% of my building students were chronically and severely absent. So what happens is that daily attendance masks chronic absenteeism. You can have high attendance on a day, but you might have 18, 20, 40 kids who have 17, 20, 30, 60 days absent.
Oh, wow.
You have to find those kids. You have to dig down into the data and know what you're looking at, And so that was definitely like a major fail forward, but not anymore. What? My student support team on it. We meet with Fidelity every week. Each member of the team, you have 5 students and you have this 5 and you have that 5. It is a commitment down to the security guard to call those students. And now we have an attendance counselor, but still it is not the sole responsibility of an attendance counselor to lift your school in terms of ensuring that kids come to school every day.
Right.
I had visitors from Australia come to Newark, to Chancellor Avenue School, and they were having the same issue with the indigenous population. And so just seeing that across the world, that chronic absenteeism exists, and that we have to drive home the importance of students needing to be educated. You know, I always say that education is your Willy Wonka ticket. You remember when Willy Wonka opened that bar and pulled that golden ticket out? That is your golden ticket, you know? And especially as African-American students, for years, we could not be educated. No, you're going to get this education.
You're going to get it.
You've been served.
Yes. I have a twofold question for that in terms of the response you've had to deal with that. What has been the number one issue that you find while students haven't come to school, and how have you been able to combat it?
So many things, like, poverty, the stories that you hear. You might have a student who lives outside of so with Newark, there's universal enrollment. So parents get to choose where they want their child to go to school. So if I'm in the North Ward and I want my child to go to school in the South Ward because I believe in the mission and vision of the school, or, whatever the case may be, that the data is strong, that there's a good school community there, I get to choose. And so with that, sometimes people are taking 2 buses, and maybe grandma is the guardian and she has to go to dialysis. And I mean, it could be any barrage of things. There are, in the inner city, in the inner communities, we're dealing with chronic asthma and, illness. And, I have a high population of special needs students, 24%. And so busing, sometimes the bus might not show up. And then how's the child getting to school? Because parents are relying on that, right? So there's a plethora of reasons, and sometimes it's that there's a latchkey kid and mom is taking 2 buses into Jersey City because she works for the post office and she can't be there. And little Jaheim is not getting out of bed on time. And so he needs some support. So attendance counselor, see, the second word in that is counseling. It is finding what the need is and supporting the situation, right? There are those other extenuating circumstances where I have to get the court rep involved, and we have to get some parents in court, unfortunately. But the goal is to work with parents and to be a support and to say, how can we do this together?
So there's variations of how you have to address those things.
Absolutely.
So with all that, how do you define success in your role? What does it look like to you to say we've accomplished something?
Yeah. Oh my God. It's like layered, there's so many moving parts, There's always this pressure to define success by data, right? And then you would have the Doug Reeveses and the Ken Williamses and, of the world who would say that there are these other measures that we should be defining success by, right? But numbers don't lie, right? And so we look at data. We definitely look at data, but we look at data quantitatively and qualitatively, right? We look at the numbers, but then we look at, at chronic absenteeism. Are we lowering it? So like, I recently put my team on a call with the state in June of 2020 at the end of the year that the pandemic hit us, right? This past school year, to see that I've moved this school from the 2 percentile to the 23rd percentile in my 4 years in the seat. This is the beginning of my 5th year, right? But another thing is that based on the Every Student Succeeds Act, the ESSA Act, that, remember, I started in my 2016-2017 year, June 2017, 32% of my students were chronically absent and just chipping away, right? So the next year dropped it down to 28%. The next year dropped it down to 23%. So June of 2020, my goal was 18%, but all of the students were put on home instruction because of the pandemic. So I didn't have like accurate data in June to really calibrate, right? But it is moving your school with a laser sharp focus and being conscious and deliberate. Outside of my school, there's signage that says Rising Blue Ribbon School. And that is the goal. That is the goal. Right. And so you can't tell me in my sick, twisted mind that, you know, with having almost 50% of transiency rates, which means that it's like a revolving door. Students come in, you support the data, they go up, and then they either leave the district, leave the city, go to a charter school, whatever it is, right? So transiency, movement, right? So 50%, it's hard to move data when the children are moving, right?
Around, yeah.
And the other thing is high population of students who have disabilities, you know, they have IEPs, they have special needs. And so that population of students is dear to my heart, but you know, it takes a lot of resources and a lot of support to move these challenging populations, right? So again, data is one measure of success, but there are so many other measures. There are measures when you have a special needs student who no longer has an IEP because he stepped down and you've provided all of the resources and support, and he's on your National Junior Honor Society, and he's a mean debater on your debate team, right? There's successes when you take your students to rich experiences like visiting the African American History Museum in DC, and people say, where are you from? And you say Newark, and they go, because your students are so well behaved, right? And you know, there's all these stigmas connected to Newark, but I was born and raised in this mighty, mighty city. And you know, although I live in Maplewood Township now, you know, I am still very connected to Newark. And so, you know, I had a STEM experience where we partnered with Liberty Science Center and did Girls in Technology, and watching my students come out of cohort 1 to then lead other girls in cohort 2 to really believing and owning that they were gamers after that, to, you know, Skyping with other gamers in the world, and then having that long-lasting partnership with Liberty Science Center. So as a principal, I am almost like the curator of brokering these deals and rich experiences, partnering with Jersey Cares to get a garden, and, you know, all of these experiences. And so those are definitely measures of success, you know?
And you tapped in a little bit about the pandemic, and that was actually my next question, and how everything got turned upside down for the world and education being impacted so heavily. How, going into that, what was your first thoughts, and how have you been able to adjust to some sense of normalcy going back into a new school year? OMGGG. Listen, imagine, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was March 13th. It was a Friday. You know, this whole COVID-19 had just kind of like broke loose, and people are getting sick everywhere. And the superintendent makes an executive decision. Children are not coming back into the building. You are going full throttle remote. And it was just a call to action. And it was every principal everywhere. And I'm quite sure it wasn't just my Newark colleagues. It was everywhere. I told you I'm in a principal group called Off School Grounds. Those are principals across the nation. And we just sprang into action. You know, the district in Newark created 16 sites where students could get food every day, every single day. They could pick up their lunch and their breakfast, right? So it is, how do children eat? How will children be educated? We had, we began distributing learning at home plans, and then we moved to remote. And so where's the equity gaps, right? Because does every child have a Chromebook? And initially, every child didn't have a Chromebook, and I'm gonna be honest. So you had homes where sometimes there were 4 or 5 children, but as a school, I had to give out 2 Chromebooks or 3 Chromebooks, you know, max, to ensure that there was enough for everyone, right? And then how do they get Wi-Fi? And then create in partnership with Optimum and things of that nature, right? And then how do we find the students who are missing? How do we find the kids who are in situations that are bad? And some of my students lost their parents. And imagine losing your dad in your 8th grade year, and you're getting ready to go to high school. Wow.
And imagine having staff that are sick. And imagine the world turned upside down. You know, but there is hope. And one of our core values here at Chancellor is reflection and resiliency. We are resilient. It is the epitome of the fabric of being a Falcon. And so it was about leading with a duty of care. You know, there was a teacher one time who was like, you know, my student is not turning in work, and, you know, we have to draw a hard line in the sand. And I said, there are no hard lines in the sand in the middle of a pandemic. And we had to lead with a duty of care, and it started with me. And understanding, right? And partnering with Jersey Cares to get Amazon wish lists, to get supplies to students, and to update your website so that parents can, you know, go onto the website and you can find out what their needs are, and to change your teaching style to more of a coaching style, because you don't know what that child is going through. It was a lot. There was definitely support from the district. We've gone through so much PD, you know, professional development is still ongoing. I mean, I'm talking about learning Google Doc, Google Suites. What is the best platform to be remote? Oh, we're having challenges with Zoom and breaches. We're going with WebEx. There were so many decisions that had to be made. And we did it. And we did it. So you definitely get some sense of normalcy. You know, I had to take a little time for myself in the summer, disconnect, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And August 3rd, when I came back in here, it was nonstop and has been nonstop. I am still looking for 68 students. I'm a school of 500, looking for 68 students to come and get their Chromebook, their resources, their materials. I know down to the number. And so it is now about those students becoming one-to-one and making sure that every student has a Chromebook. Because if a mom has a child in 7th grade and a child in 3rd grade, they both need to be in school at 8:25 now. And, you know, it is making allowances for parents. So it is ensuring that teachers know how to now record their lessons, because maybe mom is at work and can't be with the child in the computer for the whole day, right? Our parents are going through it. They're going through the struggle. We understand it. But so are teachers as well, and so are leaders as well. And so it is a very arduous, daunting undertaking in the entire loop. And so we just have to be strong, you know, and, you know, when I think of myself sometimes, I think of Okoye, you know, from the Black Panther. And, you know, I just think of this African, you know, female warrior. And so you have to be fearless in this work. You have to be dedicated to this work. You have to care in this work. You have to have compassion in this work. And so I'm fit. I'm fit.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I'm trying to unmute because, of course, the kids are yelling, but yes, you are. And like I said, you have always had exemplified that strength. So I know, again, this is why you were chosen, why this position chose you, because in this moment of time, people like you needed to be able to stand firm and be able to pull everyone together. So
definitely. So what are some exciting parts of this career? You know, I'm always excited to see what you're doing with the children. I mean, I've seen tap dancing.
Yeah. So
different languages. I mean, what do you find exciting in your role?
Yeah, so those are the exciting parts, right? The exciting parts are, you know, staff members being committed, you know, walking through the hallways and seeing bulletin board creations and their creativity, you know, bright classrooms and student experiences, definitely student experiences, you know, seeing students come back as Chancellor alum and they're like in their magnet high schools, or just having these rich experiences, or even coming back from college or undergrad, you know, just knowing that Chancellor reared them, you know, and somehow under my tutelage, whether it be in the role of a teacher or the role of a principal, that, you know, I've made a difference in the lives of some children. But some of the exciting stuff is, yes. You know, I sit and ponder and I'm like, what is it that I want children to be able to do? And it is to whet their appetite for the world around them, you know? I brought a NASCAR owner, an African-American NASCAR owner by the name of John Cohen, to Chancellor. And in real time, he taught my students how to build a NASCAR team. I mean, you see that little girl and he's like, okay, you're the driver. Come here. You come up and now you're the nurse. So if something happens, you're the nurse. And young man, you're the, and he really taught them in real time how you build a team. It was even enlightening for me. And at the end of that session, a little girl was like, Miss Pitts, could I really be a NASCAR driver? And I said, no, you can be a NASCAR owner.
What about that?
How about that?
Yeah.
Right? So, linking up with Maurice Chestnut, who worked under the guise of Savion Glover, right? I want the best of the best in here. And really seeing what he was able to do with children. When you put tap shoes on their feet in a matter of months. What? Like what? And I joined the class with them.
Yes, I saw your skills.
That's right. Because, my mother put me in Newark Community School of the Arts when I was younger, and in Gallman's Dance Theater at Essex County College when I was younger. When I tell you my mother used the resources that Newark had to offer, Newark has poured into me for real, for real. And so it was like riding a bike. I put those tap shoes on and he's like, shuffle, hop, step. And I'm like, okay, right? So, definitely, like I said, STEM experiences, just those rich partnerships. I take my students to the African American History Museum every year. I've been every year since it's open, and they go from the Middle Passage all the way up to current time.
It's so amazing.
That's right. And guess what? I take them to Broadway too. So they read To Kill a Mockingbird in 8th grade, and then they get on a bus and go to Broadway and see To Kill a Mockingbird. And they are well behaved, and they are, understanding what they're watching, these thespians, and understanding that they can be that, but they know the story too because they've learned it, because it was a part of the curriculum, and because that was the culminating rich experience that was attached to it. I'm about this life, y'all.
And I think that's the most important key element that I think about from me growing up and going to school, that I didn't have tangible experiences that made me believe that it was possible. You read about it, you may have saw it, but it was never teachers or principals that wanted to connect the dots and be so involved. And I get that when you have a student body that's that large, you can't involve yourself, but you created little microcosm of people in your teams where you said, I need you to focus on this. And so allowing that to be highlighted for each student, or so they would feel important. So it's not so much like, oh, you lost because you're in a number of students. That's so great, and your staff outnumbers that. So I think that's really.
But wait a minute, let me just push back just a little bit. So you're right, right? You do have to use your capable others, but Sha, I am front row center at the basketball games. I am in the front row when my students are tapping. I'm tapping next to them. I'm on the bus when we're going to Broadway. I'm on the bus talking to them about Howard University when we stop on the campus, to let them know that the HBCU experience and what it's all about, because I've experienced it. No, I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground moving and shaking. Yeah.
And I think that's what makes the impact, because then you're not just a figurehead. Like, you're not just walking around here as the person who runs the show, but you're actually touching the hands and being engaged with them personally. So it makes the difference.
You know what? Like I have an open door policy, so I'm not like a closed door principal. My students come and they're vocal. Miss Pitts, can I talk to you because such and such? Yep, absolutely. Come on in. We'll have lunch together, right? You're getting ready to get on the bus to go to, they know that they can knock on the door and come. They come to show me what their coding, project is. And we talk about, what is your elevator pitch? What are you going to say when you meet another school, right? This is how networking starts, right? I didn't really know what networking was until I got to college. No, my 4th and 5th and 6th graders, I'm using this verbiage with them. This is what networking is about. Because you never know when that one organization might be there and they choose you, right? They know. Eminem said, you better lose it the moment you own it. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow, because opportunity comes once in a lifetime. They know it, right? So when they came back, guess who they came to see?
Yeah.
Me. That's right.
Yeah.
And how did it go?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we saw some other projects and they were really, really nice. There was one, organization that came back to see us. We met other girls and this was what their such and such. Did you remember your elevator pitch? We did such and such and such, right? So no, these are conversations that I'm having with my kids. They know where to find me.
Right.
So that's why this whole remote thing and I'm popping into classrooms and looking in the camera. It's not the same. It is not the same.
Well, you always seem like somebody who who's full of energy. Mm-hmm. Is there something specific that you grab or turn on or read to get you going in the morning?
I have always been just high on life. Honestly, honestly, not to sound like, ooh, goody. I don't really have many vices. I don't have to wind down with a glass of wine. I just don't. I mean, you guys know me. At the party, I'm I got Coke in my cup, Sprite, right. Ginger ales, right? So it's just a natural part of who I am. Mm-hmm. But I won't try to make it sound all gravy. The higher you get in this work, it does become sometimes lonely. And I struggle with balance sometimes, I used to meet up with my girlfriends 1 or 2 Wednesdays a month and go to the bathhouse. But now with COVID, that's kind of out for right now. I started walking.
Wait a minute, can you explain what the bathhouse is? Because in my mind, that's something else.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the bathhouse is spa night. So we would go to to Edison, to Island Spa. And, they have the whirlpools that you get in, and then we would have dinner in the spa. So, yeah, the term bathhouse comes from Turkish bathhouse. So we used to go to the East Village in New York, and the ladies' night was Tuesday or something. So that's where bathhouse comes from.
Okay, I just want to...
Yeah, it's just a spa date. I'm sorry.
This is global. This is global, so I just want to clean that up. So, I always think about right now, we're on a platform that will provide to social media. And I remember going to a seminar and one of the speakers there was talking about people creating their digital footprint. And a lot of these children, they're engaged a lot on social media. What do you tell them about utilizing it in the sense that they have to remember everything they put out there will stay there forever? How or what advice have you given them about that?
Yeah, so my advice is always, once you put something into cyberspace, you cannot get it back. Mm. So once it goes into the cloud, and there are experiences that will hinder or tarnish you for years to come if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. You look at the little football player who was going to college, had a full scholarship, and then he puts on this mask bong or something and has this smoking experience and then loses everything in a matter of minutes. Athletes, they get slap on the wrist all the time, and a slap on the wrist could be $100,000 fine. It could be losing your endorsements, and in that world, sometimes your endorsements are heavier than your base salary, right? And so again, it is just the conversations that you have with them to just enlighten them about what goes on in the real world, and to be cognizant. So
think before you send.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you've been setting this very firm foundation for your students, and your school goes to what, 5th grade or 6th?
K to 8. We're K to 8.
Oh,
so in a traditional township, oftentimes elementary school is comprised of K to 5, and then students go into this incubator we call middle school, right? Before they go off to secondary school or high school. Newark is not set up like that. Newark is pretty much K to 8. And so you have to be strategic in how your school is set up so that middle school students still get a middle school experience, right? So all of my middle school students are on floor 2 in this building, right above my head, right? And I have my walkie-talkie, right? And so we have 14 walkie-talkies around here. And so, we're going to provide that layer of support. Security on floor 2 come in, nothing. That's right. So, you have to strategically plan, how your building is structured to, ensure safe spaces for the varying grade levels.
Okay. So it's funny. You said Joe Clark. It's funny that you said that because I told Sakina.
I didn't say Joe Clark.
No. I did. I said, we need a new version of Lean On Me.
Yes.
Featuring Sakina. So I'm putting that into
the only thing is that we're not locking kids in the class.
No, you don't have to lock. No. But we will use your walkie-talkie. But yes. I'm just saying, I think I'm putting that into the universe.
I think so too. Especially having a female lead as that, having that would be amazing. I'm here for it.
We need to figure this out.
Yeah. My walkie-talkie is like one of my best friends, and sometimes I use it for I play, mind strategy games with students because I'm really big into like restorative justice and restorative practices. And, I don't call police on students on my watch. To me, just the thought of making a call to a police officer for one of my African-American Black males. No, it has helped me understand why you did that. How can we support? What are the supports that we need to put in place for you, right? So, there are times when a student might, do something. Because one thing about kids that's constant is that kids are going to do kid stuff. And this is what I signed up for, right?
That's right.
And so, maybe they're upset or, listen, they have done some things. Get out of my face, Miss Peck, or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, right in front of them. Security, please stand down. I have such and such. They're in a heightened emotional state. They will come see me when they calm down. They're not a danger to themselves or others.
Wow.
See, mentally to that child, right? It's like, okay, I know security is on alert, but wow, she's really not touching me. No, right. I'm not running after you. I'm not grabbing you. I'm not, I'm here for love. So when you're ready for love, come back and see me. So it doesn't happen without consequences, right? It doesn't happen without consequences, but there are definitely other measures that we can take to really support students and make them feel supported. Support should feel like support, And so maybe it's that they're having a bad day or whatever the situation is. But normally then I'll get a knock. Ms. Pitts, can I speak to you? Yeah. Are you ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Use your words. And then we have that conversation, Sometimes it means bringing the teacher into the fold to, determine what happened. Because honestly, at the beginning of restorative practices in school, a lot of staff members had this mindset that nothing happened because sometimes it's just giving children a voice, right?
Right.
And sometimes there doesn't need to be this harsh consequence of like a suspension or something of that nature, Right. We've moved away from zero tolerance. No, there's zero tolerance for zero tolerance. We have to have tolerance, right? So yeah, that's.
So when your 8th graders move on, how hard is that for you? I mean, they start their next journey and they've had such a firm and well-rounded, 8 years with you. That must be tough. How do you deal with that?
So it's bittersweet. And for some of them, it's 8 years or 9 inclusive of kindergarten. And for some of them, it's a year, I have students who have left lasting impressions on me straight from Africa, Nigeria, first year, coming here, wrecking shop. I'm talking about tearing assessments out the frame, becoming a debater, becoming a member of the National Junior Honor Society, like really showing out in 1 year. And so those experiences leave lasting impressions on me too, But it is so there's a high school match process in Newark because our school district is so big. We're comprised of approximately 62 schools. And so it is ensuring that every 8th grader gets matched to the school that is a good fit for them, right? And so when I was in 8th grade here at Chamfer Avenue School, I took the Science High School entrance exam and I passed it. And, I was proud to have made it into one of our magnet high schools. And now we have so many more magnet high schools because When I was in 8th grade, we had like University High, Arts High, and Science High. Now we have American History High and the School of Global Studies, which I just hired an Arabic studies teacher because when I was growing up, the major 2 world languages were French and Spanish. And so now students are learning Arabic, you know, and now there's this pipeline from Chancellor to the High School of Global Studies. And now these students can become diplomats in the world. And so again, it is about creating the experiences, moving students through this ecosystem, but being conscious and deliberate as a leader in what you're doing for kids.
So, go ahead, Kay.
No, I was going to ask, you know, what was one of your, name one thing that's on your bucket list?
Personal bucket list or leadership bucket list?
Personal
bucket list. So I'll give you 2 things.
Okay.
One is to jump back into travel as soon as possible. Like I have a lot of stamps in my passbook. I've been to China, to Guangzhou. I've been to the Taj Mahal. I've been to Mumbai. I've been to, Egypt 3 times, right? And so those experiences, rich, travel experiences, I'm definitely ready to get back into. So that's one thing, to continue those, traveling to faraway lands.
You have a place on your bucket list? What's
Morocco, to the hot springs in Morocco.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm always looking for fine cuisine because I'm a foodie, right? Mm-hmm. So, so definitely that. And because I've been to so many places, I do want to write a children's book, like Principal Pitts Travels the World or something. And so I want to be able to include some of those experiences that I've experienced with children around the world. And so writing a children's book is one of the things on my bucket list. And
that's awesome.
I think like one last thing would be like, get back into traveling, my book, and it was something else at the tip of my tongue. I can't.
New version of Lean on Me. That I'm going to add it into your 3rd bucket list. It's already done.
Oh no! It was this one. This is it. I got it. So I have a 19-year-old son, and he just came out of his gap year. He took a gap year, and he just came out of his gap year in June. He still is a little undecided in terms of what it is that he wants to do. Recently, he downloaded the Robinhood app, and he wants to kind of get into the stock game, right? So I didn't even know that there was a difference between like investing in stocks and collecting dividends versus being a day trader, where you kind of jump in. You might jump in at the stock bell, 9:30 in the morning, buy, and then by noon you might be selling. You see what I mean? So I recently took a day trading stock class, and so I was always my son's first teacher, and so to know that he's in a world that he's interested in, and to me it's a foreign language, I wanted to do something to still be able to support him, and it was amazing. And so I want to, get into stocks and also real estate too.
But and it's so amazing that you said that, and that's something he wants to do, because that's one of the conversations I just had with my family recently about disparity of education on that, from the fact that our counterparts are learning that at a very young age. And I think I had a very small glimpse of it when I had a social study class where our teacher pulled out the Wall Street Journal and showed us what the NASDAQ is and the S&P and all of that, and the difference of that. We don't get that in standard education. And so that's one of the things I think that, I wish that I had learned, because I got into it later on, like actually buying stocks and what that looks like. And I'm teaching myself as I go along, but children should know that, because we think sneakers are an investment, right, or a car is an investment, but they don't understand what the stock market looks like. And that should be something, in my opinion, there should be some kind of formal education and early education they should learn. So
yeah. And so the car depreciates the minute you drive it off the lot, and the speaker depreciates the minute that you put it on your foot, right? Yeah. And so if you hold on to it and it's a retro sneaker, because my son was into the sneaker game, too, very heavy, like, you know, in his middle school and high school years. And actually, one of my first jobs was at Dr. J's in Newark, in retail, selling sneakers. And so I definitely, you know, had that connection with my son because I've known about, you know, J's and, you know, retro Ewings and Bo Jacksons and all of these sneakers from when I was young, you know, in the sneaker game. But the point is that, yeah, the car depreciates when you drive it off the lot. The sneaker depreciates when you put it on your foot. The stocks appreciate. You know, you need to know the difference between what's on your back as an asset versus a liability. You know, how to get into the real estate market and buy low. And then when the market turns, to sell high, right? And then what do you do with that to jump into your next investment? You know, that some of that is what Dame Dash is teaching us as principals, you know, and you know, I'm just grateful for all of the nuggets, you know, that he drops and shares with us. But back to education, what I'll say is that financial literacy in the state of New Jersey is now law. And so I am definitely thinking as a school principal in how I can bring real financial literacy to children, right? Awesome. You have to give kids the game, the point blank period, and they need to start learning it now. And how do you do it? You give them rich experiences. They need to know how to establish a small business, what entrepreneurship looks and feels like, right? So half of what we know is in theory, but what we really learn and gravitate to and what sticks is what we put to practice, right? Exactly. And so I can put a little book in front of you and we can go, you know, guys, today we're going to learn about or I can say, look, here's some Chromebooks, some laptops. You're going to start a business. What are you doing? And okay, and so I'm going to give you a certain amount of funding. And how are you doing that? And okay, and so are we reaching out to family? What is the ad? Are you going to put out a PSA or, you know, what are we doing? So I think that the experience needs to be real and tangible, and then they really own it, you know. And so these are definitely some of the things that are on my plate in terms of experiences for my students.
What advice do you have for, you know, a young person interested in coming into this field?
Yeah, so my journey was very unorthodox. You know, if I was going to give you a cookie cut way to do it, I would say, you know, make sure that you go to high school, make sure that in college you go into the field of education. But I graduated with a business degree. Right. So again, back to, you know, the one path was that, you know, you would go into a field of education, probably become, you know, a teacher, and then go back to school and get your master's in educational leadership, management, and policy. Find someone who could mentor you, you know, ask your principal or your, you know, vice principal for some roles and responsibilities, or get, you know, latched into another school leader. It doesn't have to be your own. So that's one path. The other path is whatever you do when you come out of school, you know, you can take the alternate route. And that's what I did. I took the alternate route, which gave me the credits that I needed. And that is where I met Daisy Yarbrough, you know. And so I was working as a teacher with having had a business degree and a certification in mortuary science, right? But the district will hire you as a teacher while you're going to classes to get what you need, you know, for in the field of education. Okay. And then finding your way to a leadership program. You definitely have to go through a leadership program, and, you know, get your master's and then your standard certification for the principalship.
Mm-hmm. So for people who want to understand the process, so you don't have to have a degree in early education. You could, as long as you have the certification. Okay.
You do not. I never had a degree in early education ever in my life. I had a business degree, and then I took the alternate route program through my district.
That's great to know. Well, I was going to also ask about, you know, we're in a political season, but we don't try to talk too much about politics, but having young minds, you're there cultivating young minds. Is that something that you find that the children are engaged in? Is something that teachers try to talk to them about, just about the process and what that looks like, so one day that they understand that they have a voice that will make an impact?
Yeah, so definitely, and they need to understand the voting process and things of that nature. There was a question on an essay, I want to say like a year or two ago, where it stumped seventh graders across the district, and it was about the Electoral College. And so, if that is not in your schema, right, then, it becomes a challenge for you to be able to speak to it. But when we go to the African American History Museum, when I take students to DC, one of the stops that we make besides the African American History Museum, so we do that about half a day, but we take them to Capitol Hill. Mm-hmm. And guess who comes out to visit them? Cory Booker. And that's right, we have pictures with him. And so, they need to understand the judicial process and, just everything. And so, yes, it is something that, I encourage teachers to talk to students about. We can't sway them in terms of any political party, but yes, they at least need to know and be educated on the process, right? And so just even last night with the passing of the notorious RBG, right? I sent an article to my staff, and told them, gear up for Monday to have that conversation with students. So definitely keeping abreast of current events, what's going on in politics, and not sheltering students from what's happening in the real world.
So can you share with us maybe one of your favorite quotes and what it means to you?
Yeah, so my favorite educational quote is, the time when a child is most undeserving is the time when they need the most love. It is how I lead this work, I service a population of students, and I would be remiss if I just, tried to sit here like, some of them don't have challenges. No, I put a social and emotional learning room, a space in this building, because to support students that have social and emotional challenges and need that support. It is a universal space where any teacher can use it, any CST member, school-based social workers. It is a place where restorative circles and meetings can happen for students, right? So I think that, in the mind of like the average person, when you feel like a child is most undeserving, when you feel like, there needs to be this punishment or these consequences, or even you're talking about something at a tier 3 level, like a call to law enforcement, which I told you I am totally against, right? Mm-hmm. That the time when you think that is what's necessary, it is the time when you really need to revert to love, And another educational quote is that the equal treatment of children is the most unequal thing that you can ever do for them. And I live by that, because we have to meet every child where they are and grow them from there, right?
Send that to me. I need that. I need that. Send that to me.
I will. As soon as we hang up. And so, there's no one cookie cut way to do this. And there's no one cookie cut way to support kids, And so to treat every child equally is to do them a disservice. That's right. Because some needs more than others. And, even with my staff, I know that I had some new staff members this year, and there was this frustration level, because in some schools, when you come on the first day, there's this layout and everybody has dry erase markers, and everybody has sentence strips, and everybody has index cards, and everybody has, back in the day, it would be chalk, and everybody has chart paper and Post-it notes. No, I'm not doing that as a principal. You're the teacher. You're in the trenches. What if you have packs of dry erase markers that you bought already? Or what if you already have chart paper and you need more sentence strips for your word wall? Or you need an easel in your class, or you decide, you choose the wish list. I give you the budget money. I tell you what the budget money is, and then you buy what you need for your students, right? That's what's equitable. because everything is not about what's equal, right? Mm-hmm. So every leader leads in a different way. Mm-hmm. So, I had to send an email to my new staff members to tell them that, please don't be frustrated. Just tell us what you need and we'll make sure that you have it. So that we come from a place that is equitable and that you have what you know that your students need. Mm-hmm. Because what Miss Cartwright needs, Miss Cromwell doesn't. Right? Right. So again, it is about being strategic and being conscious and deliberate in how you run your school, how you run your building, how you move your school-wide community. So
that's a great approach, because I've always said that even through all that has gone on with the pandemic, that I felt that a lot of people was doing a one-size-fit-all approach. Yes. And as opposed to looking at it in variations of what each grade level, needs. And experience for a 4-year-old is not going to be the same for someone who's in 11th and 12th grade. So it's great that you look at it from that approach.
Absolutely. I don't think absolutely. Even trip experiences, you have teachers are leaders. Everybody in this building is a leader. Mm-hmm. Even my head custodian is a leader, leader, and so those are the conversations, right? Because leaders teach other people how to lead. This is how you do this work, right? Mm-hmm. This is how you lead in this way. Communicate with this or that, or, whatever leadership looks like. And so I don't plan the experiences, for every student. Well, no, the Broadway is my baby. That's my experience. The African American History Museum experience. So, I have my stamp in some of it, but they know that at the K-2 level, every child needs to go apple picking or pumpkin picking. They know that at the grade 3 to 5 level, every child should have gone to the library at least once. They should know what it feels to get a library card. They know at the 6 to 8 experience that, those students might want to see Madame Tussauds or, what else might middle school do? They do so much. But the bottom line is that at each grade level, I give the teachers a choice. I tell them, look, we have $17,000 for trips in the kitty. Start putting your trips in.
Put it together, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Shah, do you have any other questions?
No, I know we normally kind of get you to, or get our guests to give us some kind of parting words of inspiration. Yeah. So what are kind of like your account, what do you kind of lead as far as wisdom, as far as even your teachers, even adults, because I need to be inspired as well. So what are some of the things that you tell people to walk away as far as being inspired by?
So listen, mine is always make your next move your best move. And, and that takes on so many facets, right? Make your next move your best move as it relates to my life was like, who would have thought a licensed funeral director would become a fearless leader of a school? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the world is so vast and you can do so much, right? So when I say make your next move your best move, it means just that, right? I just launched a fashion business August 3rd with my partner, called Garden of Extra. So you can be a principal and be into fashion and travel the world and put out a children's book. Like, there's so many things. Don't limit yourself, right? I would also say surround yourself with the thinkers who can outthink you. And so imparting, that is where I am, right? So we're talking about mentors. We're talking about, I mentioned Dame Dash a few times. I mentioned Dennis McKeezy and Daisy Yarbrough and Giselle and some of these mentors, but also putting yourself, so from 8 to 80, right? I love being around intellectuals, people who press my brain to think critically. How can I move my school to the next level? I have a principal friend of another school in Newark, and we go walking together sometimes. We're on the phone like almost daily, and it's not everybody in the district that I'm on the phone with, but I have 1 or 2 principal colleagues who, and I would even go further than colleagues to say my friends, and we have conversations about, what are you doing in your building with this? What experiences are you giving your students? How did you map this out? let's go into a think tank. I need a think partner. This is how I'm thinking about this. Oh, you didn't do it that way? Oh, let me consider that, right? Relationships, friendships, you guys know, we sit around at the cookouts and so, you know, surround yourself with the thinkers who can outthink you, because it is how you grow. It is how you become stronger. And so that's one thing that I would share with anyone.
I love that. I love those parting words, because for so long people told you to, you know, stop being the master of all these things, and what was the saying go, master of none. And so people often think
jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. And so oftentimes people believe that and think that you can't have many hats that you wear, and that you so only stay in this one lane, and where you can find other things that you're passionate about. So I think that's great that you, as a principal, people probably think that's your only life, but you have other interests that allows you to feed your soul in other ways. So that's great advice.
If you look at my life to see what I see.
You better end with a song. And
that's right.
Look, what is your favorite rap line? That's what I want to hear from you. What is your favorite thing? You quoted Eminem. What is that favorite rap line that resonates with you?
I don't know. I have so many. I don't know.
You have a lot.
Yeah, I have so many. I can't think of one. Like, trying to think.
You've always been a Jay-Z person. Is it a Jay-Z song?
Yeah, like, I don't know why. As soon as this interview is,
again, you're gonna be like, oh,
I'm gonna have so many, right? Because like the way my mind works, you can just be talking about anything, and I definitely have a lyric or a song that goes with it. Like, it's just weird. It's just weird how it happens. Like, if you say anything, my mind definitely goes to it. Like, music is like a part of my soul. It's like all genres, too, you know? Anything from Alanis Morissette to Brandy to NBA Youngboy, you'd be surprised some of what I like, right? So to taking it all the way back to your regular traditional R&B, Troop, Full Force, like the span is crazy. It almost makes you really in awe of the power of the human brain, how song for song for song. One day I was in the car driving to Syracuse with my sister to our family reunion. And we played albums like Jasmine Sullivan, Keisha Cole, and song for song for song. We knew the lyrics, the ad-libs, like you put on a 112 song and we're like, you know, we know the ad-libs, the break, the stop, like, so, and there's millions of them, right? And so you remember your day-to-day routines, things that happened in your childhood. And do you know, fun fact, like I recently learned that the power of the human mind, through all of what you know in your memory from when you're 1 and 2 and 3 years old to where we are now in life, even at your time of death, you've only used like less than a third of the capacity of your brain.
And it's probably even less now that we have so much technology. Do we have the phone? We have so much tech. Like when you think about phone numbers, like people don't remember phone numbers anymore. So we're using less of it and our memorization of things. But
absolutely.
But this has been such an honor. And it's so funny because it goes to show how we're adults now, because we were so serious. You know. I know, but it was such a great insight because, you know, I recall you doing the mortuary science thing kind of vaguely, but it tapped in my brain like, oh my God, that's right. There was such a pivot in your career. And it's such a great thing to hear that, because oftentimes people go to school for something and think they sort of stay on that track and think that that's the trajectory of their life because their parents or family member told them that's what they're supposed to be doing. And oftentimes they don't understand that it takes one little job opportunity or one little part-time job or something in the interim that kind of pivots them into the direction they're supposed to go in life. So don't be so hard on yourself. But
you know what, Sha? I give so much thanks to my mom because, you know, she was never the mom that, you know, like some parents are sticklers for certain letter grades, right? And, you know, you can't bring home anything less than a B. My mother was, if you put your best foot forward and if you got a C in that trigonometry class, all right, we rocking with a C. You know, I was like a self-starter and things of that nature. She planted the seeds. She used the resources that Newark offered. Like I said, put me in Upward Bound, put me in dance class. I was the stiffest ballerina ever in life, right? But those whetting my appetite, you know, I do give a lot of credit to my mother, and she just let me be so free spirited, but she was there in the front row for everything. Every college graduation, oh, you want to go to mortuary school? Well, you need to go to college first, but afterwards. And so when I still was pressing her coming out of Morgan about going into mortuary school, she allowed me to do it. And so, you know, just always kind of just being the cheerleader in the back and just letting me fly. And so, you know, parents have different parenting styles, but she just always kind of allowed me to be a free spirit and kind of choose, you know, just was that guiding force, you know. And so I'm grateful, you know.
And she also know how to cure a bee sting, because she put dirt on my arm at the park when I got I've never seen this cure, and I was like, oh wait, the pain's gone.
We're alike in a lot of ways, but so very different, you know. Like, I'm the sing in the train station, you know, free spirit, you know, rambunctious. My mother's a little more laid back, you know, calm.
because she poured in you to be free. So that's why. So that's the amazing part of it, that she didn't be like, oh no, a lot of times there's a lot of parents that try to pull you back because they're not that way, but she poured in you to be that way. So that's awesome. Yeah,
definitely with like a girl, you know, my little girl. No, it wasn't like that.
She's like, go, jump, leap, fly.
That's right. That's right. Girl, I got these new wings. We're going to try them out. You ready?
I love that.
That's great. I do have a question though. Do you think you'll get back into mortuary, that whole field? Do you still have that passion in your heart to do something?
Probably not. Like, you know, I was born and raised Muslim. So like, if a Muslim sister in the community dies, especially like someone that I know, I will definitely partake in like the janaza. You know, there's a lot of blessings in that. But I don't really have like this burning desire to own a funeral home anymore. Actually, this pandemic taught me something, seeing the millions of people, you know, losing their lives, hundreds and thousands. You know, the funeral industry, I probably would have been batty at what was going on. You know, to hear that bodies are in 18-wheeler tractor trailers that they've converted into morgues because of the rate of death. Like, no.
That's it,
you know,
this one hit different.
It definitely did, you know, and I don't know if, you know, it may have been lucrative on the part of funeral homes and things of that nature, but there's a morbid part of it that's like that's not the cost that we want. I want lucrative in real estate. I want lucrative in stocks, not lucrative in the rate of death that we're losing in the world. Like, no.
Okay, good. But you're making a huge.
Well, that was a somber way to end this interview. Thanks, Yana.
We have to say that. No. We have to say that, you know, really, you are making a difference in the lives of children every single day.
Lord knows I try.
So, you're doing more than try. You're making it happen. We appreciate you. We love you. We love all that you're doing for our children out here. And we wish you much more success.
And we are cheerleading from afar. And I'm so proud of you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And, you know, again, I am honored, you know, to have been given the opportunity, always humbled. And, you know, I think that this platform, you know, inspire and in knowness in what you're doing for youth across the globe, you know, and adults alike, you know, who are watching, but definitely for youth across the globe. Interview for interview, you know, I saw the dancer, I forgot his name, but, you know, to see, I follow him on social media, you know, and to have been brought up with Jersey Club and watching him do his thing. And, you know, dance is one of the ways that I connect with my own students. We put on music for any incentive or something that we have going on, and kids are going to teach you, you know, the latest whatever, right? And so to see him and to see his experience and, you know, some of the other special invited guests that you've had, it's just, it's amazing what you all are also doing and bringing to the youth and to the world. And so if this is the way that, you know, you guys are giving back, you know, I definitely commend you as well. And so press on. There's an interview on my birthday on September 26th. What's her name?
Oh, Mia Quinn.
Yeah. And what's her career?
She's a celebrity stylist. She's a key customer in film and television. So she's worked with many artists in the industry and
nice
movie. So
nice. So see, and I look forward to jumping in and joining, you know, and so I'll try to catch some of that one too. It is my birthday, but I'm gonna try.
Well, you love fashion though. You love fashion. Yeah. I know that.
But also, and honestly, listen, I was a celebrity stylist for a little while. So my friend Big Seven, who owns Time to Grind Radio, has a daughter, and she was a rap artist. Her name is Miss Nana. And back in the day,
I remember Nana.
Yeah, and so I was Nana's stylist. We would be on the road going to concerts with the Yin Yang Twins and Little John.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Sakina.
Yeah, so,
she performed in one of my talent shows. You know, I used to do talent shows down in DC. I forgot you did that. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Girl.
Wow.
She's a jack of all trades over here.
I would love
to have another interview just on another part of her life.
Yeah. So,
but you have to be feeding your soul.
Yeah, and let your students know if there's anyone that, you know, might be interested in fashion, tell them to join.
Okay, I sure will.
And make sure you follow for all those, once they see this video back, make sure you follow the We Inspire Nana's page, because we want people to nominate others like Miss Pitts here, who's doing so much in her community, and just making sure people who are being inspired by others are being highlighted so we can interview them and showcase their journey.
Yep, you got it.
Awesome. Well,
thank you.
It's been great.
Thank
you. See you later.
Bye. So long. See ya. Hope you have a real good time. Farewell.
Always a song. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Love you too.
Okay, bye.